And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Starting off flying weather for Thursday morning. Again, big area IFR, Bering Sea, and the Aleutians, and that extends right into the southwest here with marginal VFR, St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait, then some IFR up here along and off areas of the Arctic coast. VFR, North Slope, right on down into the Kenai Peninsula. Fognac Island looking pretty good, VFR there, with some marginal VFR around Kodiak Island. Then there's a band of IFR here, a narrow band off the southeast coast coming up to just south of or southwest of Yakutat. And for the afternoon, that area vanishes, leaving just some marginal VFR here over the Gulf of Alaska with VFR for the Panhandle and mostly VFR here, southern Alaska down to Kodiak Island with nothing but VFR up in the interior from the Copper River Basin to Sitna Valley to the North Slope, and some IFR along areas of the Arctic coast. And IFR now advancing northward across St. Lawrence Island, still down covering much of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, and still kind of angling up into Togiak Bay there, and a little bit of IFR for the Yukon Delta. Otherwise, Seward Peninsula, rather marginal. And for the morning hours on Friday, again from the Bering Strait there, southward, lots of IFR all the way down, covering the entire Aleutian chain. Still have this band extending up into Togiak Bay and the Auckland Mountains there with marginal VFR for the remainder of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Some marginal VFR here along the Alaska Range Friday morning, otherwise south central Alaska. Mostly VFR with the marginal VFR, southern Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, the North Gulf Coast, the interior VFR, North Slope marginal, and the eastern and central Arctic coast IFR. And now Friday morning starting out pretty marginal for the southeast and North Gulf Coast, but that becomes VFR as it burns back in the afternoon there. The low clouds fair ways off the coast as well, so a good VFR afternoon coming up from Dixon Entrance right on up to Yakutat, Cordova. A little bit of improvement in Prince William Sound, some lingering marginal VFR for the western Alaska Range, but VFR all the way up across the Brooks Range, North Slope, and even out to the Arctic coast for the afternoon. Marginal VFR here, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, down to the north coast here, Bristol Bay, and then IFR again from the Bering Strait all the way down now to the Aleutians, but some improvement here for the Fox Islands. And for passes tomorrow for the Brooks Range, both Anatuvik and Anigan, VFR flying on either approach. VFR conditions on either approach, Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, but rainy optimistically going VFR for the entire day, windy VFR. Isabel and Mentasta both will be VFR on Thursday. Tanita, VFR. Portage could start out marginal, especially on the eastern entrance here, trending toward VFR throughout the morning hours and afternoon. Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels about 8,000 to 10,000 feet here across much of the interior Gulf of Alaska. 10,000 to 12,000 feet for the southeast coast, and up here over the northwest Bering Sea, a cooler air mass, 6,000 feet there, and then you get down to the Aleutians running about 8,000 to 10,000 feet. From there, looking at icing with a band of moisture here, bringing areas of considerable moderate rime icing, southwest Kodiak Island into the Alaska Peninsula, on up across the southeast Bering Sea to almost into Nunivak Island. And some icing possibilities up here for the central western Brooks Range on out into the Selawik Valley, Kotzebue, northwest coast, and those areas to about Point Lay. Otherwise, icing free for the remainder of the state. And for the jet stream here, a couple upper lows, one over the Yukon Delta, another one here just north of the western Alaska Peninsula. So 33,000 foot winds coming up and around, 75 knots there. Just west of the peninsula, southwest 65 knots just south of Kodiak Island, northwest 90 knots with this center off the north coast of the Panhandle. Then that kind of blows in across Dixon Entrance. And 100 knot westerly jet here across the southern Bering Sea into the east central Aleutians. 9,000 feet, showing a couple of low trough here across the Bering Sea. North of that trough, east-southeast winds 35 to 40 knots on the south side, westerlies at 45 knots, and light over the interior, upper-level high pressure here centered over the northeast part of the state on the Brooks Range there, and a weak upper low here, keeping these stronger winds to the south of the southern southeast coast. 9,000 or 3,000 foot winds, light and variable here through the central eastern interior. Not too bad in the west side as well. Gulf of Alaska, light winds, northwest maybe up to 20 knots at 3,000 feet west of Prince of Wales Island. But southeast winds, 40 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, 35 knots here around St. Matthew Island, and then some southwesterlies at 35 for the west central Aleutian. So with those winds, throw some light to isolated moderate turbulence there for ADAC over to about Kiska Island, and maybe a little bit here St. Matthew Island to near Macoriac. Otherwise, the heavier turbulence tomorrow would be along the Alaska Peninsula with those stronger southeast winds. Considerable moderate turbulence there with light to isolated moderate for the Fox Islands, and smooth generally everywhere else.